Hello, one and all, is my view of the season finale of Soma Spider, So What? And I've got to say, I am so glad I watched this anime. I mean, I almost dropped it after the first episode because CGI was just, really wonky, and I was not at all interested in Shun's storyline, the classmate storyline, because it just felt like such a typical bland isekai, but I am so glad I stuck with it because this ended up being one of my favorite anime of the last season. I mean, yes, the CGI was definitely an issue, even just in the last couple episodes, especially with the human versus elf army. Oh, that looked bad. It looked really bad. But when it actually came to Kumoko herself, our lovable protagonist, it looked so freaking amazing, especially in combat when she was, moving around up, down, left, right, forward, back. Just such a maneuverability, just such a three-dimensionality to the combat. And when it actually came to her, casting her spells, they were able to do that in just such massive numbers because they were using CGI. She was able to fire off hundreds and hundreds of black bullets at a single time at her enemies, and it just looked so amazing. I freaking loved it. But what really just absolutely blew me away in the series was the storyline, because time and time again, it just messed with our perception, our understandings, our, preconceived notions of what was true and what was fact. I mean, for the first, 5-6 episodes, we believed that Kumoko's storyline and Shun's storyline were happening at the same time, but they just weren't, and we actually found out when it actually was revealed to us. It just blew our freaking minds. It really made us wonder, okay, wait a minute. If Kumoko, the Kumoko we've seen so far, is from 15 years in the past, where is she now? And the first assumption a lot of us came to was, oh, she must be the Demon Lord. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, Shun is the hero. He became the hero at one point. So it would make perfect sense for, his other classmate to become the Demon Lord. There's parallels, there's inversions, there's all that fun stuff. Plus, the Demon Lord used thread magic, just like Kumoko, and made comments about Earth Dragons were stubborn, just like Kumoko would do. So it made a lot of sense that she was Kumoko. But then we met White, and it just became this grand mystery. Okay, is Kumoko White, or is she Ariel? I mean, White, she could use rot magic just like Kumoko, and she had the same voice actress as her, so that made a lot of sense. My own personal theory was that Kumoko was both Ariel and White, and that ended up being actually fairly close to the truth, but my basic understanding was that, eventually Kumoko's parallel minds would eat Mother's brain, eat Mother's mind, and, eventually she would evolve into Ariel, while Kumoko herself would evolve into White, and they would basically be, the same person, but split up and ruling the Demon Lord's army for some reason. Like I said, that was close. That was definitely close, but so very far from the truth. And meanwhile, Shun's storyline ended up being an utter deconstruction of the isekai hero. I mean, it seemed, perfectly bland at once. He had the childhood friend who was in love with him, little sister who was in love with him, he was royalty, he was crowned hero. It all felt very heroic. He even refused to kill, just like so many isekai heroes. But then it all very quickly fell apart when his own sister betrayed him. And yes, she was brainwashed, but still the sister who was completely in love with him murdered their father, and then he was kicked out of the kingdom and branded a traitor. And I mean, even becoming a hero was not a happy thing. It was not a joyful thing. It wasn't like, oh, huzzah, Shun has become a hero. It came at the death of his brother, the person he loved most in the world. And even his whole no-killing thing really came back to bite him in the butt, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. But the elves especially were just a complete inversion of our expectations. I mean, hear the word elf, you think immortal hippie, living in nature, at one with nature, peace, and all that fun stuff. But instead what we got was a military dictatorship ruled over by Potomus, the village chief, who is a Terminator and who controls an army of giant robots. Yeah, I gotta admit, I did not see that coming. I truly did not see that coming. And it seems like he's on the verge of destroying the entire world, so Shun has, definitely backed the wrong horse here, but, he's still continuing to try to be on the side of the elves, and he's just trying to walk a line between the elves and his classmates, and it's just going so very badly for him. I mean, if he could just pick a side, it would be so much easier. I mean, he doesn't want his former classmates to kill the elves, and he doesn't want the elves to kill his former classmates, and he's just being so wishy-washy about this. He wants everyone to live in peace and love, but he doesn't seem to realize he's in the middle of a war. He needs to pick sides here, and he's just not. I mean, if he sided with the elves, that'd be one thing. He'd go, to where the Demon Lord is, probably even kill the Demon Lord, because he's the hero. He is actually capable of doing that. Or he could side with his classmates here and realize, okay, the elves are probably evil. They're probably on the wrong side here. And just go to the sidelines and do nothing. But instead he chose to attack his former classmates who are leagues and leagues above him. He literally could not hurt them even if they weren't fighting back. That is how overwhelmingly powerful they are. And he's just so weak. It's actually pathetic. I mean, seriously, Shun really gave it to Hugo for thinking, he was the hero, the world belonged to him. Shun is doing the same thing. He seems to believe he is so much more important than he actually is right now. And, if he just sided with his former classmates, if he actually just believed them, listened to them for a second, he could have just, gone to the sideline, and then Anna wouldn't have been killed. And a lot of you are probably wondering, okay, but who exactly is Anna? Because the anime really cut out a whole bunch of her storyline. So basically, she is a half-elf who was kicked out of the village for being inferior to the rest of them. And, when she was out, she realized, okay, wait a minute. All these elves were basically slaves to the village chief, to Thomas. So, that was really messed up. I mean, they had no free will. They had no choice of their own. They were basically just slaves to him. And that's not a good way to live her life. So then she went out and more or less became a slave to Shun's grandfather, great-great-grandfather, one of those. I mean, not literally a slave, but she basically devoted her entire life to serving this one person, just like all the elves devote their lives serving the chief. But she feels superior about it because she chose who she's serving. Definitely messed up mindset, but it makes some sense to her. Anyway, she feels really, really guilty about being brainwashed by Hugo and betraying Shun because of it. After she swore to serve him, so that's why she followed him back to the village, even though it was such an overwhelmingly bad idea. I mean, seriously, at one point, all the elves circle around her and start beating her up, while her guards just watch from the sidelines laughing. That is how much she is hated for being half-elf. God, elves suck. They really, really suck. So this is her way of, making amends to Shun, literally sacrificing her life pointlessly to save him. Seriously, Wrath wasn't actually trying to kill Shun, he was trying to knock him out. So, Anna's death was utterly, utterly pointless. And I do mean death. She literally died here. Shun's mercy skill doesn't so much heal a person as it brings them back from the dead. That's how we saved Kaya a couple chapters ago after she basically commits suicide to undo Hugo's brainwashing. So as you might imagine, this is definitely a broken skill, though it comes with a bunch of costs. I mean, first off, it just requires an overwhelmingly large amount of magic to use. Even more so if a lot of time has passed since the person has died, or the body was in bad condition, like 2 or 3 episodes ago when all his elves got blown up and turned to ash. Shun wanted to revive them, but he couldn't because, they were literally ash, and even he didn't have enough magic to fully fix them and put them back together. But the second, much, much bigger consequence is that using mercy raises your taboo skill. And if your taboo skill, even reaches level 1, the Church of the Word basically orders your execution. So, that's really, really bad thing to have happen to you in this world. But what's even worse is if it reaches level 10, you find out the truth about this world. And the actual truth is a little bit hazy. At the very least, we know that at some point technology destroyed the world. And the world is still on the verge of being destroyed again, so I guess Ariel is trying to stop that, and the Elven Chief, Thomas, is trying to make that happen for some reason. But anyway, the truth is apparently so overwhelmingly shocking that it would kill anyone who finds out about it. I mean, in this world, anyone who is a native of this world finds out the truth would basically go insane and die from just having that knowledge enter their mind. Shun is another worlder, Kumoko is another worlder, so they were able to handle it a little bit better, but still not great. And hopefully now that Shun's learned the truth, he'll realize, okay, wait a minute, the elves are definitely the bad guys here, so maybe I should, just let the demon's army, just let my former classmates do whatever they want. I mean, unlikely, because he is just such a bland, typical Isekai protagonist, and he is so very, very against killing, that seems quite unlikely, but maybe. But speaking of his former classmates, we get to see another one of his former classmates show back up again. Good old White, and we actually learn her name. Seriously, we are 23 episodes into this series. It's been going for 6 months, and we are just now learning the protagonist's name. I mean, the fan base has been calling her Kumoko for a long time. I assume that was a nickname she gave herself at some point. No! It literally just translates to spider and girl. Spider girl. Yeah, that's it. That's the fan name. That's where it came from. She herself never actually gave her own name. And when she actually looks at her status screen, it says Nameless Spider. It still says Nameless Spider, so... Oh my god, I freaking love it. 6 months, 23 episodes without ever learning the protagonist's name. Oh, I love it. I freaking love it. But anyway, Oka-sensei is very, very surprised to see that Kumoko is still alive because her class roster skill said that Kumoko had died years ago. And my best guess for the reason behind that is that Kumoko did actually die in her battle against the Demon Lord. She was technically killed. I mean, her body was destroyed completely and utterly, but she reincarnated. She reincarnated in an isekai storyline. She did an isekai inside an isekai. This is getting crazy right here. Yeah, so basically she reincarnated into one of the eggs that she had laid after she killed her own mother, her spider mama, because she was planning on using the other eggs to store the other personalities, her other, magic brain, mind brain, info brain, all those other brains were stored in the other egg. So very cool. And as a result of getting so very, very much experience from killing all those humans in the big war, she was able to finally evolve into an arachne. Or, as the internet has dubbed her, the MILF with the very, very big butt. And that's not technically wrong, I guess. I mean, she has so very, very many children here, and she wasn't being, a completely awful mother. She gave them food. She left behind, monsters that she hadn't eaten for them to eat so that they wouldn't, go hungry. So that's some good mothering right there. Though it should definitely be worth noting that these children are the nightmare vestiges, the remnants of her that were left behind, that were so powerful that one of them was able to challenge the former hero's party and almost win. And the others are just, probably equally as powerful, and they, Shun encountered them. There were dozens and dozens of them, so yeah, she probably has the power to destroy the entire world just from her children, so yeah, that's worrisome. That's definitely worrisome. I mean, hopefully she has, the kin control skill. I mean, I think she has the kin control skill that Mother tried to use to control her, but yeah, I'm just now remembering that because she had the heresy nullification, kin control didn't work on her, and because these kids are her kids, there's a good chance they also have heresy nullification, meaning that she might not actually be able to control the army of her children, so okay, that might be bad. That might be really, really bad. I'm not actually sure about that. I've only read some of the light novels, so I don't actually know what happens next, but that's concerning. That's very, very concerning. But anyway, now she has a beautiful half spider, half human body, and she can pass as, somewhat human if she wore a very large cloak over her spider body and she was dealing with someone who was, really freaking stupid. And I do just love how utterly, placid her face is throughout all of this. She's just, so still, so tranquil, so just like this. It's, really creepy, especially when you can hear her thoughts. That was the big thing with White. Okay, how could Kumoko be White? I mean, she is so overwhelmingly bubbly and ecstatic and happy and just energetic. Well, White is just, this. And as it turns out, she's still all that. She's still all that bubbliness, but it's just not showing on her face because she is just so overwhelmingly bad at dealing with people. Oh, Kumoko, you are my spirit animal. But anyway, then she checks on little baby bloodsucker's town, and it's on fire. Yeah, it turns out the enemy army decided to attack the town while their army was busy fighting, which, definitely feels like a war crime. I'm almost certain that's a war crime. At the very least, it's very, very immoral. But, they're fighting a holy war, Church of the Word versus the other religion, so I guess war crimes are allowed when you're fighting for the will of the goddess or something like that. And I do just really have to appreciate the dignity and honor of Sophia's parents. I mean, they realize that if they stay behind, they are definitely going to die. They are definitely going to be killed. But, they can't abandon their town. They can't abandon their city while the people still need them. So they send their child off with the butler, Marizophus. Yeah, I can't actually pronounce his name at all, so I'm just going to call him the butler. And I freaking love him as a character. I mean, seriously, he accepts the orders without question to protect the child of the master he's sworn to serve. And then, even when he gets filled full of arrows, his only thought is still on protecting the child, still on protecting Sophia. And even when he gets turned into a freaking vampire, he doesn't question, he doesn't wonder, why is it I'm suddenly a vampire? Why is it I'm suddenly so overwhelmingly strong? His only thought is about protecting Sophia. And I just wish we'd seen another 5, 10, 20 minutes of him murdering the elves, which was, oh my god, that was fun. That was a lot of fun to watch. And, even then later on, at the end of the episode, some stuff was definitely cut out where he was, dealing with the fact that his young ward, this infant he was holding, could speak with the intelligence of a high school student. But overall, the conclusion was the same. No matter who Sophia was, no matter what she was, vampire, reincarnator, student, anything, she was still the person he had sworn to protect, and he's going to stay by her side no matter what. And that was just such an overwhelmingly heartwarming moment. Seriously, the butler is probably the best guy in this entire series. Yeah, he actually might be. We don't actually have a lot of good guys in this series. I mean, there is, the Demon Lord's army people who do seem to be pretty okay, but we don't actually got enough about them to really know one way or the other. So I'm going to say Butler is best guy. Huzzah! But even though he is now turned into a vampire, and a rather strong vampire at that, he is absolutely no match for Potomus, who just, completely wipes the floor with him without even trying, and, would have absolutely killed him if good old Kumoko hadn't shown up to save the day. Huzzah! Oh god, just poor Sophia. She's been through so very, very much. And now a giant house spider shows up looking like one of her former classmates. Oh, she must be so confused. She must be so utterly, utterly confused. And yeah, then we have Kumoko versus Patamas, and you think it'd be an easy win for Kumoko, given that she is, almost at the level of a freaking demon lord. But that is not the case, because Patamas can enact an anti-magic, anti-skill barrier that basically weakens Kumoko incredibly. I mean, I'm still a little unclear about the exact details of this. I read it once, but I'm blanking it right now. But basically, it blocks her from using any magic outside her body. For example, if she can create thread, but as soon as it leaves her body, it basically just falls apart. So she's not able to cast any magic or anything like that, but some of her body enhancements that are affecting her actual body are still in effect. So she's able to fight somewhat. I mean, she says she's moving so slowly, but we actually see the fight from the eyes of Sophia, and it's like light speed. She can barely even follow what's going on. And Kumiko is definitely fighting her own style and holding her own a little bit. I mean, seriously, she sacrificed her own head just to put Patamas into a false sense of security so she could attack again because she has a second brain. Nobody else would have thought of that because it's such an utterly insane, ridiculous move, but it worked, and she was able to deliver a pretty serious blow. And then later on, she's able to use her Warping Evil Eye to completely destroy his gun barrel, and seriously, Warping Evil Eye is one of the best Evil Eyes she has. I mean, she got a whole bunch of new ones when she, arrived in the town while she was experimenting. I can't remember the names of the other ones, but this is the most interesting one, because it can basically overpower any defense, any barrier, anything, as it's affecting space itself. It's warping space. The only real problem with it is that it requires a person basically to stand completely still and wait to be warped, wait to be destroyed. So, yeah, not all that effective against foes, but it's still very, very low level. So maybe as she, levels it up over time, eventually the casting time will cut down. She'll be able to activate it almost instantly. It'll be a much more, it'll be a much more deadly, much more useful weapon. But at least now in the fight, it can completely cripple Patamas' gun and destroy the other two elves. So still very, very helpful weapon to have in her arsenal. Still not enough though, because Patamas is a freaking Terminator. Like, seriously, a freaking Terminator. My best guess is that he's doing something actually rather similar to what Kumoko did here. Basically transferring his soul, his consciousness, into another body whenever the old one breaks. She transferred her consciousness into unhatched eggs. Well, he transferred himself to his next cyborg body after this one was killed. I think that's what's going on here. It seems like there can only be one of him at a time, and once destroyed, he just moves into the next body, making him essentially immortal. But, even without the whole immortality thing, he's a very, very dangerous foe. And, Kumiko would have lost if not for good old Ariel coming in and saving the day and striking a very dramatic pose. Yeah, she's changed. She's definitely changed. I mean, she was certainly much more serious in the past, but because Kumiko's body brain infiltrated her, their two souls basically merged together, meaning that Ariel is now both herself and Kumiko, so my theory earlier on wasn't actually all that insane, all that wrong. And she is now very bubbly, very energetic, very happy-go-lucky, and it's interesting. It's definitely confusing to people who've known her in the past, especially Patamas, who's like, are you actually Ariel? Because you're not acting at all like the Ariel of the past. Thankfully, he doesn't have all that much time to question her, as she basically destroys him in one blow. Yeah, she is strong. She is overwhelmingly strong and just utterly, utterly terrifying, and I freaking love her. And, if it came down to fight between her and Kumiko, she would have lost. She would have utterly, utterly lost. Kumiko would have died very, very quickly. But thankfully, Ariel is under the perception that she can't actually kill Kumiko, because no matter what she does, she keeps coming back. She isn't aware of the fact that Kumiko can't actually reincarnate into an egg again because all the eggs hatched, but, she thinks it'd be too much trouble to try to kill her, so she decides to, just make a truce with her, team up with her, especially because, she is kind of part Kumiko. They're more or less sisters at this point, kinda, so she doesn't feel right about killing her, and she doesn't actually think she can kill her, so she just agrees to, work with her, and together they'll fight the elves. Together they'll destroy the elves who are trying to destroy the planet, and it's, not a bad deal for her. It makes a lot of sense. This way the Demon Lord won't be trying to kill her, and she'll have the backing of the entire Demon Lord's army and all the generals, so win-win for her, I guess. Yay! yeah, and those are basically my thoughts on this episode. Like I said, this series just did an absolutely freaking amazing job at misdirection and foreshadowing so much other little bits and pieces. Oh, I do just need to mention my one favorite little bit of foreshadowing that no one seemed to pick up on, and I only realized when I rewatched the series. Back when we first met the Demon Lord's army, when we first saw all the generals of the Demon Lord's army, the butler was there. The butler was sitting at the table with everyone else. Admittedly, he did look a little different, and, he was only on screen for a couple seconds, but no one seemed to pick up on that. No one seemed to realize that was him when he first appeared as a butler, like 10 episodes later. Seriously, if they did, what kind of theories and foreshadowing would that have created? I mean, I first read light novel and I saw that he was, a vampire. My theory was that he was actually, Sophia's real father, and that, he had impregnated the mistress of the mansion, and, that he was the reason why she was a vampire as well. No, it turns out she turned him into a vampire, but I still really like that theory, and just, seriously, if anyone knows that, I really just have to wonder what they would have thought. And just the way the series deconstructs the typical Isekai protagonist storyline, which is so utterly amazing. It actually might be another series I'm going to recommend. It's a Korean manga called Triple F Class Trash Hero, where the premise is basically the main character is summoned to another world, and then spends 10 long years fighting until finally he slays Demon Lord. He brings peace to the world. He's able to go home. Except he's told that he received a failing grade, and as a result he has to go back in time and do the whole thing all over again, simply because he made a little mistake. He murders his entire party. And I don't mean he got them killed, I mean he literally murdered all of them, though they did kind of deserve it. I mean, from a logical standpoint they did, but from a fantasy storyline perspective, they definitely did not. I mean, for example, at one point in the story, his teammates convince him they need to go help save this beautiful, brilliant princess and get her back on the throne and dethrone her brother who is evil and corrupt and stupid. And they do that! Huzzah! But as it turns out, overthrowing a monarch is very, very expensive and time-consuming, and it results in a whole lot of nobles who have very important jobs losing those jobs. So the kingdom basically fell apart as soon as they left. Yeah, that's bad. That's bad. Or, for example, there's the elf, who is very, very anti-slavery, which, is a very good position to have. No matter where you're at, it's a very good position to have to be anti-slavery. But the problem is, slavery is legal in that world, and whenever she sees the slave owner, she attacks him in broad daylight, which is a crime, which just causes no end of headaches to the protagonist. So, yeah, it's a really amazing series. It really just deconstructs all the flaws in the typical Isekai storyline and really says, okay, yeah, it's not so simple as, just murder the Demon Lord and you'll save the day. I mean, the king's like, oh, because of demons, my kingdom's falling apart. And it's like, no, your kingdom's falling apart because you're an idiot and all of your nobles are massively, massively corrupt. But anyway, back to this series, Soma Spider. I loved it so much, I ended up picking up the light novels, and as you might imagine, there is a whole bunch that was cut out from the anime. And it's so much that I'm actually going to start doing a series of videos explaining all the cut content. I'm not actually sure when that's going to start. I need to definitely reread the first volume before I start making the first video. That there is a lot I want to cover and a lot I'm really excited to cover. For example, Kumoko is a saint and a hero. I mean, she's literally recognized by the world as being a saint and a hero because she healed so many people when she was outside the town, when she was being worshipped as a divine being. She received the title of saint. And that came with the skill hero. So yeah, this person who has killed God knows how many humans, who has the human slayer, human exterminator title, is also recognized by the world as a saint and a hero. Oh god, I love it. I freaking love it. Definitely excited to start that up, like I said, probably sometime next week. Also next week, I'm going to start covering the Season 2, Part 2 of That Time I Reincarnated Slime. Very excited that's coming back. And what's coming up next in that series, oh, that's going to be fun. That's going to be a lot of fun. Though just a little warning to anyone who's, going into it. The first 2, 3, maybe even 4 episodes are going to be a little slow. There's going to be a lot of talking and a lot of, just build up for what comes next. But the latter half of the season is just going to be absolutely freaking mind-blowing. It's insanity. Some of the best fights in the entire series, honestly, and I'm super excited to see all that. But yeah, let me know else down below. If you like this video and you want to see my content video down the road, or my slime video down the road, or my Dr. Stone and My Hero Academia video down the road, or my Arafureta video way down the road, be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. And until then, peace!